I dialed my son on Christmas morning, hoping to hear his voice and wish him a happy holiday. When he picked up, he sounded rushed and said, "Sorry, Mom, wrong house this year," before hanging up, or at least he thought he did. He forgot to press the end button, and within seconds I heard him laughing with his wife, saying she really thinks the money she sends buys her a seat at our table. My heart shattered into a million pieces right there in my quiet living room. I spent years sacrificing my retirement and working extra hours just to fund their lavish lifestyle, pay their mortgage, and ensure they had everything they wanted. Sitting by my cold dinner table, I realized I was nothing more than an open bank account to the child I raised with endless love. I took a deep breath, walked over to my laptop, and opened every single banking portal. That night, I canceled every ongoing wire transfer, reversed every pending holiday allowance, and revoked his access to my emergency fund. By morning, his perfect, comfortable world was about to crumble. For over 5 years, I thought I was doing the right thing as a mother. Ever since my husband passed away, my focus turned entirely toward making sure my son Mark and his wife Chloe never struggled. When they bought their large home in the suburban neighborhood, I paid the down payment. When Chloe wanted to start a boutique business, I wrote the check. Whenever Mark called complaining about high bills or unexpected repair costs, I immediately transferred thousands of dollars. I believed that supporting them financially was my way of staying connected to them and showing my unconditional love. But over time I started noticing subtle changes in how they treated me. Invitations to family dinners became rare, and when I was allowed to visit, I was treated like an inconvenient guest rather than a beloved mother. They would talk down to me, make snide comments about my simple wardrobe, and constantly drop hints about how much money they needed for their next vacation or house renovation. I ignored the red flags because I loved my son and couldn't bear the thought of being isolated from him. Christmas was always my favorite holiday, but this year felt different from the start. I had spent weeks picking out thoughtful gifts and prepared a small roast at home, waiting for them to call and invite me over as they usually did at the last minute. When noon rolled around without a word, I decided to call Mark myself. The conversation lasted less than 10 seconds. His voice was cold, detached, and sharp as he gave me a quick excuse and said wrong house this year before cutting the line short. But the call didn't end. Through the speaker, I heard the distant background noise of a bustling holiday party, music playing and glasses clinking. Then came Mark's voice, clearly talking to Chloe and their guests. He snickered and said she actually thought she was coming over today. She really thinks the money she sends buys her a seat at the table. Chloe laughed along, adding that my presence always ruined the aesthetic of their upper-class parties. Hearing those words from the boy I carried raised and gave my entire life to was a pain deeper than anything I had ever felt. The illusion was completely shattered. I wasn't their family, I was just their silent sponsor. Slowly, I wiped away my tears and replaced my sorrow with absolute clarity. I realized that my generosity had not earned their love or respect, it had only bred entitlement and arrogance. I walked over to my desk, logged into my bank accounts, and reviewed the massive flow of money leaving my funds every single month. Mark had direct access to a monthly allowance transfer of $5,000 plus an open secondary credit card attached to my main account for his ongoing expenses. I clicked on each active account and systematically canceled every recurring transfer. I called the credit card company's emergency holiday hotline and canceled the card immediately, blocking all pending transactions. I also contacted my estate attorney via email, instructing him to remove Mark as the primary beneficiary of my home and remaining savings, redirecting everything to a local children's charity instead. By 2 a.m, every financial bridge connecting my wealth to his life had been burned to the ground. When morning came, the panic began. My phone started ringing incessantly at 7 a.m. sharp. It was Mark calling repeatedly, followed by urgent text messages asking why his credit card was declined at a luxury resort they were visiting for boxing day and why his monthly allowance transfer failed. I let the phone ring over a dozen times before finally answering on a quiet, calm tone. When Mark angrily asked what was wrong with my bank account, I simply replied that there was no mistake at all. I told him that since my money couldn't buy me a seat at his table, his entitlement could no longer buy him a seat in my bank account. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. He tried to stutter out excuses claiming it was just a joke and that I misunderstood, but the truth was already out. I politely wished him a Merry Christmas and hung up the phone for good. From that day on, I reclaimed my dignity, my freedom, and my hard-earned peace. True respect is never built on what you can give financially, but on how people treat you when they think you have nothing left to offer. Setting boundaries with toxic family members isn't selfish, it is an act of self-preservation and self-respect. Never allow anyone to treat you like an option or a bank account while you treat them like a priority. Standing up for yourself might feel painful at first, but walking away from disrespect is the greatest gift you can ever give yourself.